Quick, what's the world's biggest economy? If you said the U.S., you are correct, at least for now. But a new report says that by one measure, the U.S. could lose that distinction to China sometime over the next year. Scott Cohn has more.
China's economy may become the world's largest this year, passing the United States earlier than most expected. According to a new report, by 2011, China's economy was already 87% the size of the U.S., leading some experts to predict China will top the U.S. as the world's biggest economy by the end of 2014. BTIG's Dan Greenhouse says we shouldn't be surprised.
With the number of people that are in China, there are about 1.3, 1.4 billion people compared to just 305, 310 million in the United States. They should have a much larger economy.
Even though China's economy may soon outstrip that of the U.S., the average Chinese worker still only makes roughly $6,000 a year, while an average American makes nearly 12 times that. And that's not going to change anytime soon.
China's been coming on strong for quite some time. U.S. businesses as well as world businesses are aware of that. But I don't think that even if we pass this particular benchmark, it's a tipping point. That doesn't mean that the U.S. can't still maintain its strength.
And investors should also remember economic growth doesn't always translate into stock market returns.
Even though they're growing 7% or more, and even though the economy is set to become the largest in the world, the stock market has effectively gone straight down for the better part of 5 years.
While China's stock market may be struggling, there's no question China will be a growing force in the years to come. For Nightly Business Report, I'm Scott Cohn.
Here now to talk more about China is Barry Bosworth. He's a former presidential economic advisor in both the Carter and Johnson administrations. He's currently an economist at the Brookings Institution. Barry, thanks for joining us. Let me first just ask you about this survey. Do you believe, does this one measure that they're looking at have legitimacy in your view that China will overtake the U.S. by the end of this year?
Yes, I think it does. But people should understand it's a very complex calculation to make. There's a huge range of error in this, but the basic message is that there's a total economy. China is beginning to approach the size of the United States is correct.
Mr. Bosworth, 25 years ago, something like 11 of the 20 wealthiest corporations or most valuable ones in the world were Japanese. We all thought that we were going to end up working for Tokyo. Is the fear that the same thing might happen with China overblown?
Yes, I think so. But still, remember, fundamentally, I think China, it's a much bigger economy in the sense of there's a lot of people. It's got room for a lot of further growth because incomes per person are still far below those of the United States. So I think it's inevitable as we look ahead. We can argue about the year in which it occurs, but China is going to be a larger economy than the United States.
Okay, so if that's the case, what's the takeaway here for whether you run a business or whether you're an American investor? Why should you care?
Because it's what we should realize out of this, from our economy's perspective, this is a very big market now. We have to pay attention to the opportunities both to invest in China and to export things to China. And particularly in the area of exporting to China, we just haven't done very well at all. We're very good at importing from China, but we're very bad at exporting to China. And I think the big reason is we don't pay much attention to that market.
Is that because we're bad at it or because they protect their markets?
I think the bigger problem is that we're bad at it. That stands out as a U.S. For countries more than just China. We don't have a very good export record. I think there's a good reason for it. For 30 years up until the financial crisis, this was a fully employed economy, and if you were an American business, you would say the way to make money is to focus on the U.S. economy. You didn't have to spend a lot of time trying to find export markets when we were fully employed already. But the world's changed since the financial recession. We need to export today.
Right. And some would say, and the Chinese need to be better consumers. Do you see that changing?
Yes, I think that's very important. I think China got a little off track after the WTO agreement to bring them into the international system. And I think they feel they've been too much of a focus on exporting and not enough of a focus on developing their own domestic economy. The financial crisis revealed to them that they were very exposed. I mean, the shock of the collapse of world trade was a big problem for China. And they're still struggling with how to adjust to that. So I think, yes, they want to develop their domestic economy. That's good for them. And that would be great for American exporters if we're prepared to take advantage of it.
All right, well, let's hope it turns out good for both sides. Thank you so much, Barry. Appreciate you coming on the program. Barry
Thank you.
Bosworth from the Brookings Institution.